So back around the end of last year, I finally got a copy of the Caravan box set, Who Do You Think We Are? And, I thought about doing some content on it for the channel, but the idea of really kind of tackling it in one video seemed fairly daunting because it is quite large box with quite a lot going on. So instead I wanted to tackle a few pieces of it in separate videos, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the remasters which appear in this box set. Now for me, and probably for a lot of fans with a similar level of knowledge and expertise, I think there were 4 benefits to getting this set, right? One benefit is that you get all the studio albums, which means you can finally have, let's say, the post-classic stuff all in one place that's relatively accessible. Back when I first started listening to Caravan in about 2010, the later albums, whatever you want to call them, the stuff after the 70s prime, a lot of those albums were out of print on CD. They were fetching very exorbitant prices. A few years later, when everything kind of shifted to streaming, they weren't really available on streaming, all of them. Some were, some weren't. They weren't comprehensively, from what I could tell, available on streaming. And even in the heyday of the Pirate Bay, even if you wanted to download illegal copies of some of those subprime, subclassic albums, not all of them even appeared in that venue, right? Some did, but some didn't. So one advantage of this box set is that it does give you that full batch of studio content. Now, some people who've been with the band for decades might already have all those. I didn't. I suspect that most people who are relative latecomers to the band, it's only been about 15 years for me, right? Some people who are relatively latecomers to the band might not have all that, and this provides a good way to approach that. I'm going to be talking, hopefully in a couple weeks, about my responses to some of those less classic Caravan albums. You do, of course, get the 40th anniversary edition of Land of Grey and Pink, which has the 5.1 surround mix and the new Steve Wilson stereo mix. It bugs me just a little bit that they couldn't include a CD with the new stereo mix of that album. The having everything on a DVD like this, obviously, I get why the surround sound mix is on a DVD. You can't play that from a CD, right? But having the stereo mix on the DVD just really limits the context in which you can actually listen to the thing. But the fourth, the one that's of main interest to this video, is all these albums are remastered, right? Now, the last set of remasters was done back in 2001, so it's been about 20 years. Presumably the technology has advanced a bit, and also kind of the general assumptions around what people are looking for in a good master, I think, have changed a bit since 2001. So I was really interested in seeing how these newly mastered versions compared to those 2001 releases that most people would have in their collections who have a CD edition of those older albums. Now, back when I got the Van der Graaf Generator Charisma Years box set last year, I remember being surprised by the differences in mastering, right? I wasn't sure going into the comparisons if it would make much difference, but, those masters were consistently quieter, more dynamic, had a little bit more headroom in ways that kind of lent themselves better to contemplative listening, right? So I was really excited to see if the same trend would be reflected in the new masters for the classic Caravan albums. So first of all, I'm going to play you a clip from maybe their most enduring song, certainly the song that you're going to hear the most frequently if you listen to this whole box set over the course of a couple weeks, like I did a few months ago, and that, of course, is For Richard. Now, just looking at these visually, you can see the 2001 master is louder here, which follows on with the trend we'd expect from that Van der Graaf box. Right around here, in the first solo, you have a really quite fat waveform on the 2001 master. Seems to have more dynamic and texture in the box set master. So let's just listen to that section. Here's the 2001 master. Now here's the box set master. So So the 2001 master, it almost feels like it's on the verge of like distorting or clipping there, right? The new box set master has a little bit more room at the top. I'll admit to kind of enjoying that sugar rush quality from the 2001 master. It feels cranked in a way that's kind of exhilarating and makes a lot of sense for that passage of music. It's a little bit of an assaultive mastering job, but it's kind of an assaultive piece of music. Still, the new master is a little bit quieter. It gives you a little bit more space to kind of think about the texture of the sounds and the playing. You can maybe listen to this a little bit more contemplatively. When I was doing the comparison for the Van der Graaf generator box, I think what I said then is that the older masters were probably good for the car. The new ones were good for, headphone listening at home. And I think that basically kind of applies here as well. Next up, I want to compare something a little more quiet and acoustic. So, I've got a piece of the song Winter Wine. Now, this box set, I mentioned earlier, it has the DVD of the 40th anniversary edition with the surround and the new stereo mixes. It also has, however, a CD, which has the new master of the original mix, and that's in a separate CD from the 40th anniversary package. So just looking at it visually, the difference seems less pronounced here. The 2001 master is visibly a little bit louder during the quiet parts, but the louder parts don't really look all that different. Let's try a little bit of the quietest part here. Are you always flowing, blowing in my mind? Here's the box set master. Are you always flowing, blowing in my mind? If you blindfolded me, I'm not actually sure I could hear a difference there. Let's try a bit later in the song. There's definitely a difference there. I'm not sure that I can explain totally what it is. It seems to be a little bit beyond just the louder volume for the old master, right? It's more that, the 2001 master sounds maybe a bit brighter, the new one a little bit more muted. Without knowing the right answer, I might actually be slightly more partial to the 2001 version there, but not really enough to make any kind of meaningful difference as far as which is honestly better to listen to day to day. Just as an aside, this song is just the most enduringly lovely piece of music that I can really imagine. It still makes me happy every time I hear it. So we've looked at a more overdriven piece, we've looked at a more folky piece. I want to tackle something that's a little bit more lushly orchestrated now. So I've pulled up the song Love in Your Eye, and this is totally unexpected actually. The box set master is significantly louder here. In quite a lot of places, it's totally maxed out. It looks like a metalcore album or something. When I first loaded these in my DAW, I honestly thought I'd mislabeled them. I had to check and make sure that I had the right ones. But, let's have a listen. Take the cup of newfound wealth, drink it down and do yourself. Take the cup of newfound wealth, drink it down and do yourself. Boy, honestly, the old one sounds better there to me. The box set master has a kind of flatness to it. It sounds a little cardboardy. It's not the result I would have expected at all. It's kind of strange given the previous examples. So that wasn't at all the result that I would have expected there, actually. It's kind of interesting that it went in the opposite direction from the first two samples that we looked at. Lastly, I want to look at something from the Girls Who Grow Plump in the Night album. And something with a little bit more of a heavy rock approach. So let's listen to a clip from the long song on this album. I'll just refer to it as A Hunting We Shall Go to avoid mangling the French. Now, interestingly enough, you can see visually that once again the box set master is the louder one here, although the difference isn't as pronounced as it has been before. Again, though, not what I would have expected. You can see some pretty sharp spikes around things like drum fills or snare hits. So in this this version, I don't know if there's really a huge difference, honestly. You know, the 2001 masters may be a bit sharper, it's a bit more trebly. I might actually give it to the box set master just on those merits, but, you know, it's a relatively minor one. So there you have it. You know, you have one song where the new remaster is a bit quieter in a way that's a little more appealing, gives you more dynamic space. You have one song where the box set remaster is bizarrely loud in a way that I think hurts it. And then you have a couple songs where, in one case, the new master is a bit louder. In the other case, the 2001 master is a bit louder, but the difference is probably negligible. So that kind of surprises me as a result, honestly. You know, again, you know, the last time I did this exercise with the Vandergraaf box, there was a really clear kind of mission that you could see that had been sort of undertaken with that remaster and a clear kind of goal and aesthetic for it. Here, you know, it seems a little bit more all over the map. It doesn't really seem consistently intentional in the same way. And, you know, there's lots of great stuff in the box. I'm glad that I bought it. Just at a listen here, I'm not sure that the differences in the mastering on these classic albums is much of a selling point. All right, well, thank you much, everybody, for your time and attention. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts about all this. Check out Electric Brain Electric Shadow on Bandcamp or your favorite streaming service. Most important part of the video. And I'll see everybody in a week.